we all know about like World War One and World War Two, where basically the entirety of Europe and the world got rearranged by the victors of those wars. But one of the wars that happened before them was the Napoleonic Wars, and some people consider them to be like World War Zero because it was fought on multiple continents. It changed the entire hierarchy of all the countries, and for some strange reason, even though France was absolutely defeated by the end of it, they didn't really get split up like Germany. They didn't really get, partitioned or anything. They just basically got their territory back, and I always wondered why. Thankfully, History Matters, as always, is ready to help out, and let's just see what they have to say, right?
When you start a major European conflict and get defeated, you'll often lose territory as a result.
Exactly.
In 1789...
Oh yeah, I completely forgot about Spain. They basically lost all of their colonies after getting butchered.
France looked like this. There was soon a lot of warring, one Napoleon, and just over 25 years later, it looked like this. Not a whole lot.
Incredible!
Different. And given the destruction and embarrassment that Europe's other powers suffered at the hands of France, why wasn't it punished more? Why didn't the victorious allies carve up France? So, as many of you will know, France...
Dude, those borders kind of look cool in a disgusting way. Like, if they got rid of, the Croatian part and trimmed the lowlands onto the Rhine River, it would actually look pretty good. Sort of. Well, and this whole penis protruding inside of them from the Swiss side.
It's expanded rapidly in the wake of the French Revolution and peaked at this size. Naturally, once Napoleon was dealt with, France lost most of its gains but was allowed to keep a few conquests. That was until Napoleon returned. After his second defeat, France lost these territories.
Give us a tiny sliver of land again. There's no huge difference. Let's actually look back. This is not that much. They kept, the inward pieces in here. But all of this is gone. But that's not a lot of land compared to everything that they've caused.
That was until Napoleon returned. After his second defeat, France lost these territories further. The French border regions were then occupied, whilst the Congress of Vienna, called by the victorious powers to decide what was to be done with France and her allies, was ongoing. It was decided that France wouldn't be dismembered or have large swathes of land taken from it and given to anyone else.
But why?
This wasn't exactly a unanimous decision. The coalition powers fell into two groups. The first was the Punish France camp.
Basically, World War mentality. Annihilate, make sure that they get a fascist in power so they can steamroll you again and then lose, and then dismantle them further.
This included Prussia, the Netherlands, Switzerland, Savoy, and to a lesser extent Austria, whereas the other powers were in the let's not be hasty camp. This included the United Kingdom, Russia, and unsurprisingly, France itself. And this division was something...
France is like, hey, I know I fucked up for the last 2 decades. But let's relax. Let's give love a chance.
The French representatives, led by Charles-Maurice de Talleyrand, were able to use to France's advantage. Prussia gained this from the Congress. Its original hopes were for this, but Talleyrand was able to convince the British and the Russians to pressure Prussia to accept these lands along the Rhine, which notably included this piece of France proper. This kept the Russians and the Austrians happy, gave Prussia some very rich land to the west, and was exactly what the French wanted. So why? Why willingly give up some of your own land? Because the French were convinced the peace wouldn't last and that these lands would be hard for Prussia to maintain, meaning that in a future war France could win them for itself. This never happened.
No. This is disgusting. This was the French plan. It's like, we're gonna reconquer that land off of Prussia. We're gonna look like this exactly. You know what? I'm happy they never did.
But it was an interesting idea. The Netherlands and Savoy were also countries which wanted extra lands from France. The Netherlands had hoped for this, but got told that their annexation of the former Austrian Netherlands and rule over Luxembourg would be enough, so shut up. Savoy, despite not doing anything, was given this land at the behest of Austria, who was busy trying to create an Italian confederation much like the German one, which conveniently it would also run. Except that the whole Italian confederation thing fell flat, but it was at least a good effort. Everyone went along with this because the Netherlands and Savoy were supposed to be mid-sized buffer states to keep France contained. And so the only other state that wanted French land was Switzerland, which had hoped to be given all of this. They only got this.
They almost got all of
connecting
it.
Geneva to the rest of the country. And the reason was that they had no major powers on their side, since none of them would gain anything from an expanded Switzerland. And so what about the rest? Well, for the UK, Russia, and to an extent Austria, there was one primary concern. the balance of power and maintaining monarchical government in Europe. Austria wanted a strong France to counter Prussia and Britain. Russia wanted a strong France to counter Prussia, Austria and Britain just didn't want to have to deal with the continent anymore.
It's always just strategically thinking, what can we use after the war?
Carving up France meant that no one would get what they wanted, because if France lost a lot of territory, its recently restored monarchy would probably be overthrown again. It's also the reason why during Napoleon's return...
But that would have been a lot more fun! Imagine a proto-fascist dictatorship in France, and then they're basically the Germans, and then they beat everyone up, and then they lose.
And the coalition didn't declare war on France, but on Napoleon. The restored King of France was an ally against Napoleonic and Republican ideals, and thus stealing all of his land afterwards wouldn't have been cool. In the end, it was the coalition's suspicions of each other that meant that France needed to remain strong and unified, meaning that unlike in the wake of other great wars in Europe, major territorial losses were off the table. I hope you enjoyed...
They say it was off the table, but was it really though? So I do wonder what would the dynamic be of the world if they actually went through with splitting the country up. The alliances would definitely be different, I think, right? If it was split up, France would no longer be an issue. Therefore, Britain would have a free game, essentially. And to a lesser extent, Germany. So I think the rest of the powers would probably try and gang up on them. And I don't know, Britain might survive because they're more of a naval power, but I don't know if Prussia can survive literally everyone after, just gaining a bunch of land. So they might perish. But that's for some alt history boy to figure out. I am not an expert. I am retarded. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed it. Make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe if you did. Check out History Matters. Always fun to listen to. Always some fun videos. But anyway, that's it. Hope you have a nice day. Bye-bye.